And now it's time for Live at 5.
Well, hello. Welcome, everyone, to Live at 5. I'm Caroline Feraday, and I'll be your host for the next half an hour. And we have got a jam-packed show for you. So stay with us. In our first segment, we'll be doing a diary of a reporter. And actually, I'll be sharing some of my reflections on covering the murder trial of Rebecca Grossman. She was the socialite who knocked down and killed two little boys, 11-year-old Mark Iskander and his 8-year-old brother, Jacob Iskander, on September the 29th, 2020, with her Mercedes SUV. As they crossed the road in Westlake Village, she was found guilty of second-degree murder earlier this year and sentenced to 15 years. So we'll be talking about covering that, being in the courtroom, her 15-year-long sentence. No doubt the appeals that, she's already launched, so certainly it's not the end of it for what the family have gone through. And we'll be taking your questions as well on that, so please be sure to put those in the chat. Also joining us today on Live at 5 in the 805 is Ventura County District Attorney Erik Nasarenko, who talks with us about the fentanyl crisis that's gripping Southern California. Erik, tell us more.
Happy to. I was appointed Ventura County District Attorney in 2021. Prior to that, I served in the office as a line prosecutor. I primarily prosecuted child molestation and rape cases. I also have served as the mayor of the city of Ventura and on its city council. In 2022, I was elected countywide, and I'm very pleased and proud to represent Ventura County as its district attorney.
And also joining us today on that subject is Brady Wilmon. He's a substance use navigator at Adventist Health in Simi Valley. Brady, tell us a little bit more about that and about your role, which is really on the front line of dealing with this crisis.
Thank you very much, Caroline. My name is Brady Wilmon. I am with the SUN program for Adventist Health Simi Valley Hospital. SUN is an acronym for Substance Use Navigator. Basically, I'm based in the emergency department. My job is to intervene, assess, and counsel patients that are brought into the emergency department suffering from drug and alcohol addiction, many of those which are fentanyl related. I'm also participate in Narcan distribution, trying to get Narcan in the community as much as possible. I see about 70 to 80 patients a month, depending. And I usually work with them and the family to try to get them into a treatment center that best suits their needs, that's best equipped to handle them and their situation. I also do a lot of work in the community, the local high schools, the homeless population, and
Well, it's amazing work and something that really impacts so many families in our area. So thank you very much for joining us today. And I look forward to that conversation later in the program. In our third and final segment as well, we'll be talking to Trevor Goodwin and his guests about what's going on in the local sports world. Trevor, take it away.
Thank you, Caroline. My name is Trevor Goodwin. I'm a former athlete of Ventura County and a current broadcast journalist. And today I have the pleasure of interviewing a former athletic director and current head of the Ventura County Sports Hall of Fame to talk about our local sports community in the 805. Looking forward to that in the third segment.
Very nice. We look forward to that. Look forward to speaking to you then, Trevor. Thank you very much. Now, this is something that has been on my radar as a member of the community, but also been on my radar as a mum and very much been on my radar as a journalist. And I've been working as a journalist for 29 years. And I can honestly say that being in the room for the sentencing of Rebecca Grossman, socialite who was convicted of the murders of Mark and Jacob Iskander a couple of weeks ago, was the most harrowing day of my professional career. And I'm not even their mum. I don't know how she got through it. She was amazing. So look, it's been going on in our community, and this has been going on in our community for some time. So Rebecca Grossman there on the left. I'll tell you a little bit more about her. She is the co-founder of the Rebecca Grossman Foundation. So that is like a foundation that works with the Grossman Burn Center. She's married to Peter Grossman, a plastic surgeon. His father was Richard Grossman, who set up the Burn Center. So she was a socialite with some philanthropic ambitions. Those two sweet young boys there on the other side of the picture are Mark and Jacob Iskander. Mark was 11 years old, and Jacob was 8 years old when, on the 29th of September 2020, and if I take you back to September the 29th, 2020, remember, that was the pandemic. We'd all been cooped up in our houses, couldn't get out. Those boys had been cooped up in the house all day, and their mum, a lovely lady called Nancy Iskander, decided to take them for a bit of a walk. In fact, she was on rollerblades, they had their skateboard. They also had their younger sister was with their dad, Karim. And when the boys and their younger brother, Zachary, got to the crossing on Triunfo Canyon Road, they stood and waited for the road to be clear before crossing. They got halfway across the road, continued to cross towards the lake because they thought, let's just have a look at the lake, get some fresh air, get out there. Unbeknownst to them at that point, Rebecca Grossman, who had stopped by some friends nearby for a margarita in the afternoon and then stopped by Julio's, which is now closed in Westlake Village, where she met up with her boyfriend, Scott Erickson, for some drinks for happy hour. And then the two of them drove at what are freeway speeds on that residential road through Westlake Village. In fact, her Mercedes showed that she was doing 81 miles an hour in the few seconds before the impact. So what happened was she then tapped her brakes and she impacted Mark and Jacob at about 73 miles an hour. Mark was killed instantly. Jacob actually had a faint pulse and he died that night at Los Robles Hospital. It was an absolute tragedy that devastated the community of Westlake Village. Sweet boys who were crossing that road were there to be seen. She didn't stop her car. She didn't stop her car when there was an 11-year-old boy on the bonnet of her car, on the hood of her car. But what did happen was that her car airbag fired. And when the airbag fired, that cuts the fuel to the car and that ground the car to a halt. So she found herself in a position where her car, because it was a very intelligent Mercedes, in fact, called emergency services for her. I find it hard to believe that she in any other circumstances would have done that. She never called 911. She never called for help. She never went back to the scene of the accident to offer assistance. But I managed to get hold of that call. We haven't got time to play you it all because it's about 10 minutes long, but it is quite interesting to hear her voice in the moments after that call. And I'm hoping that we can play it for you now. It's one that I used on KCLU for a story when she was sentenced. So I'm hoping we have that call now. Do we have that call now? If not, maybe we'll get to it. Is it there? Okay, we will get to that, to bringing you that bit of audio, which is fairly critical to the storytelling. But essentially, her car called her and she said, well, I don't know what I hit. And they said, but you hit something. She went, no. Anyway, she, from then onwards, has tried to blame anyone but herself for that accident. She blamed the crossing. She's blamed the boys for jumping out. They didn't. She has blamed every single thing but herself. And then when it came eventually to trial after her repeated attempts, and she went all the way up to the appeals court. It went to trial earlier this year, which had been delayed and delayed and delayed. I mean, how the Iskander family went through that for, 3.5 years is incredible and heartbreaking. And obviously she had a lot of money to spend on doing all of those things. So it really was a trial of two halves. You had Nancy Iskander, who was being represented by the public prosecutors who brought the case, and Rebecca Grossman with a team of multiple lawyers. And by the time she came to trial, and she'd been through a few lawyers, she was represented by a Texan lawyer by the name of Tony Busby, who I will never forget telling the court in his cowboy boots, she ain't done nothing wrong. She tried to blame, during that trial, she tried to blame Scott Erickson, despite there being no evidence for that. And there was this extraordinary, devastating evidence At one point, they even said the reason she didn't stop, they had an airbag expert, the reason that she didn't stop is because her airbag made such a loud noise that she probably thought it was a sniper. And that was the evidence they decided to put in front of the jury. It really was insulting to the family, and it was insulting to the jury's intelligence. Luckily, the jury saw right through that. I sat in court when that jury came back in, and you are never, ever confident of what a jury will come back, because you can't read them. And fair play to that jury. That was a traumatic trial to sit through. They heard a lot of traumatic evidence and the injuries of the boys, and the whole scene and scenario are absolutely heartbreaking. The jury came back in. The second they came back in, I noticed that not one of them looked at Rebecca Grossman, who'd been in the courtroom the entire time and never given evidence. She never spoke for her own defense. Not one of them looked at her. And that was the moment that I knew that they were going to come back with a guilty verdict on the murders. So she was found guilty of 2 second-degree murders, manslaughters, the hit and runs, and some other claims. Oh, people tend to think this is a DUI. She actually was on the limit of 0.08. So she was never charged with the DUI, but they did argue that she was impaired, and they managed to get across this murder conviction on the grounds of implied malice, that she knew that her speed was so would kill, and that her behavior after she had killed Mark and fatally wounded Jacob was so egregious that it did take her up to that standard of there being a murder. Then came the sentencing. Now, the sentencing was a day where she actually did speak, but before she did speak, so did the friends, the family, the teachers, the Sunday school teachers, the grandmother, the uncle, the mother of Mark and Jacob Iskander. And it was heartbreaking to hear the impact of losing those two boys. Even friends of those boys bravely stood in that court and explained to the judge exactly what it meant to lose them. Is that the call now that I can see on the screen? Yes, it is. Now, let's have a little listen to that.
32258 Trumfo Canyon Road, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Are you injured?
I don't know.
Okay. And I have you in the 2018 Mercedes-Benz white AMG GLE 43 coupe?
Yes, it is.
All right. And did you hit someone, or did someone hit you?
I don't know. I was driving and all
Hello,
of a
ma'am.
sudden...
You still there?
Can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you now. Did you hit someone, or did someone hit you?
I don't know. I was driving down the road and all of a sudden my bag exploded.
Okay. All right. And can I have your name?
My name is Rebecca Grossman.
Okay. Okay, Ms. Grossman, are you on the side of the road, or are you still blocking traffic?
I pulled over to the side of the road.
Okay. All right, just hold on for me 1 second. I'm going to contact local 911. Stay on the line with me.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So as you can hear, she sounds pretty calm after encountering that. And her first instinct seems to be, to me, to protect herself and not really say what had happened. And that continues throughout the court. And in fact, she went to the hospital, and a nurse from the hospital testified that she told her on the night, if my Mercedes hadn't disabled, then I would have been at home in my garage by now. So it tells you everything you need to know. So the judge decided, despite the family asking for those two boys to be treated like separate individuals and it not to be a 2-for-1. You know, they're very different boys. Mark was sort of wanted to be a brain surgeon by day and a comedian by night, and Jacob was Nancy Iskander's little protector and jokester, and they were very different boys, very different personalities. In fact, the judge, Joseph Brandolino, decided to run the two sentences concurrently rather than consecutively. So she will serve 15 years rather than she could have received 34 years. He also lumped the hit and run in with that. So Nancy Iskander told me that she felt that she wasn't really serving any time for the hit and run, and she was quite disappointed by the way that the sentencing went. Rebecca Grossman has said that she was going to launch an appeal, and she has started that process. She still has never, she said I'm sorry for what happened to you to Nancy Iskander, but she's never said, I'm sorry for my part in that, and I'm sorry for what I did. But she can have a bit of time to think about that while she's at Chowchilla prison, which is where she is now, which cannot be very nice for anybody. So that is where she is now. Right. So let's move on, because it is obviously a tragic story and there is an awful lot to say, and I'm sure we will return to it at some point. We'll take a little break and we'll hear from our sponsors. And we've got a shout out from Lauren Winterhalter to tell us about the upcoming 2024-2025 Distinguished Speaker Series in Thousand Oaks. We will be right back.
You're made for more. That's why Adventist Health Simi Valley offers robotic-assisted technologies for fast surgical recoveries from expert surgeons. Click to learn more.
We are the Distinguished Speaker Series of Southern California, and we've been serving the greater Ventura County community for over 23 years and counting at the Bank of America Performing Arts Center. This season, we have Trevor Noah, Malcolm Gladwell, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, Pete McBride and Kevin Federico, Emily Chang, and Zanny Minton-Vados joining our 2024 through 25 season. Our series has brought together family, friends, and colleagues for a shared common experience. This is the year to join us at speakersla.com.
Welcome back. Nice to have you back. Thanks for sticking with us. We have got a great show, a busy show and a jam-packed show for you. So stay with us. Lots of great conversation. Let's move on to talking now with Ventura County District Attorney Erik Nasarenko, who many of you may know by meeting Erik or seeing his work around the county. We're going to talk to him about fentanyl, but let's have a little think about actually what fentanyl means to families in our area. We've got a short interview with a mother who lost her young son to the fentanyl overdose tragedies that have become too common here in Ventura County. Let's have a watch.
It's a wound that's never going to heal. Hi, my name is Faye Martin, and my son, Ryan Malcolm, died from fentanyl on May 8th, 2021. It was one day after his 29th birthday. He was my only son, was funny, he was charming, he was educated, he was an athlete, but he suffered from substance use disorder. He had been injured in an accident at work, and we tried to take care of his injury without surgery. And he ended up having to have surgery, so the prolonged period of him being on opioids, he became addicted. Ultimately, he had 45 days sober, and he ended up dying from fentanyl. He had bought some pills, and the amount of fentanyl that was in his system was enough to kill several people. It was just a very difficult phone call to get, and it's very difficult as a parent to be trying to survive my own grief and to watch my surviving child grieve. I still come across people that say, what is fentanyl? And to me, that's like saying, what is COVID? Fentanyl is killing more people than COVID did. And yet we don't hear enough about it. And I want to see a COVID-like response to the fentanyl crisis.
Absolutely heartbreaking, and heartbreaking for so many families in that same position. Erik, thank you very much for taking the time to join us. Great to see you. Tell us about the extent of the crisis in Ventura County, what's being done to manage it.
Sadly and tragically, fentanyl remains Ventura County's deadliest drug. In 2023 alone, 178 individuals died because of a fentanyl-related overdose. Fentanyl is exploding the caseload of our prosecutors. Let me give you one very sobering statistic. In 2019, pre-COVID-19 pandemic, in the office of the Ventura County DA, we had 18 fentanyl-based case filings. Year ending 2023, we had 756. That is a more than 4,000% increase. This causes tremendous strain on our prosecutors, on our public health officials, on the courts, and it really is a modern day scourge. Nevertheless, we in Ventura County have undertaken a very special effort. We understand that this is an all hands on deck approach. We have public health, behavioral health, law enforcement, prosecutors, all part of a countywide initiative that deals with the fentanyl epidemic from multiple fronts: education, public awareness, interdiction, prosecution. Because what we know is that this drug is killing people each and every day on Ventura County streets. It's primarily killing, John, males who are between the ages of 30 and 60. Most of those 178 deaths that I mentioned earlier arise from our four largest cities: Ventura, Oxnard, Simi Valley, and Thousand Oaks. So we know who's dying. We have avenues to address them. And what we're really doing here is making sure that Narcan, also known as naloxone, is made available throughout our schools, among our first responders, and in our communities. This is the opioid reversal drug. With just a very brief training, individuals can receive naloxone. They can administer it in the field. We also are interdicting and dismantling routes of fentanyl that come into our county. We have a specific law enforcement task force in coordination with the California National Guard, the FBI, and other law enforcement partners, including our sheriff's office, which receive intelligence, background, and are able to stop and interdict the drug before it arrives in Ventura County. We prosecute, as the Office of the District Attorney, fentanyl-based traffickers and drug dealers extremely seriously. We will seek the maximum penalty should they deal that deadly drug in our communities. We also want to make sure, if they deal the drug, that they are advised if they do it again and someone should die, they can be charged with second-degree murder. It's that serious.
You said there, Erik, that we know who's dying. And I just want to touch a little bit more on knowing how it's getting on the streets. Is it the same bad actors that are delivering illicit drugs in Ventura County who are also delivering fentanyl?
Yes, the supply chain into Ventura County not only traffics in fentanyl, but other illicit, dangerous, deadly substances. It's important to know that the opioid trade has changed radically, significantly. It used to be harvested in faraway lands through crops, harvests. It required water, workers. Now, because this fentanyl is a deadly synthetic opioid, it is manufactured largely in the northern Mexican desert in clandestine labs, which are small and hard to detect. It comes into this country illegally. And what we're seeing is a drug that is highly addictive and inherently lethal. What I share with all audiences, there's no such thing anymore as a recreational drug. You take any type of drug, and you have to presume that it is laced and tainted with fentanyl. We've also seen, unfortunately, reports that the Chinese government is helping to subsidize the precursor chemicals that are used to manufacture and produce fentanyl. There was a House committee, John, in April of this year that published a report finding that a tax rebate structure exists in the Chinese government, whereby they will give tax incentives to manufacturers of fentanyl precursor chemicals, so long as those chemicals are sold and exported out of China. So this is international in scope. It arrives, unfortunately, in our county, but we, as Ventura County law enforcement As the members of this proud and great county, will continue to do whatever we can to stop and interdict it, but also give recovery pathways for those who are under the throes of fentanyl addiction.
Thank you, Erik. Thank you very much indeed. Let's speak to Brady Willman. You really are on the front line of this, Brady. And the thing I know from talking to Erik so many times that he hammers home is that realistically, one pill can kill.
Yeah, absolutely. We see it all the time. Matter of fact, to date this year alone, we've had 84 fentanyl-related patients in our ED. 38 of those have been overdoses. Luckily, they were saved by Narcan that was administered to them on scene. But as the district attorney alluded to too, is that we get a lot of accidental overdoses. A lot of cocaine, methamphetamine is laced with fentanyl too. They say roughly 80% of all street narcotics are laced with fentanyl too. So it's a very dangerous situation that plagues our community.
And what are your thoughts on it and in how it can be tackled from your side, from the healthcare side?
Healthcare side, I think the best thing we do is education, getting it out there, letting people know, educating kids on the dangers of recreational drugs, fentanyl, drug addiction, alcohol. Mental health is a big component to drug addiction, obviously. So just the overall well-being of children and education is the best way to combat this crisis. Yeah,
so it's a very complex issue, and thanks for all that you do in your role towards tackling it. Thank you very much indeed for taking the time to talk to us as well, Brady. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Right, let's take our next break. Do stay with us as we talk to our panel. We'll be able to take your questions and pop those in the chat, won't you? And we'll be back in a moment with Trevor Goodwin.
I looked around at my other colleagues and I realized everybody had an MBA, and that's when I knew if I wanted to go any further in this company, I needed to further my education.
The executive MBA at Cal Lutheran is really a chance to further your education, but in an atmosphere that's conducive to your worlds.
PR, marketing, statistics, metrics, analytics, all those things that I learned in the program, I'm able to apply.
It was just great to have faculty who have the real world experience, but also understand how to impart that knowledge to folks in a classroom. It's an accomplishment that you can share with your existing network to help you kind of advance to the next level.
It actually got me into an interview for a different position.
I got promoted to the director of programming and operations for the whole music department.
You're going to walk back into your job or into a new job and really kind of have a wider view of what the possibilities are. To me, that's the number one thing.
Welcome back. Very, very nice to have your company. Thank you very much for staying with us. Promised you a jam-packed show, and by Jove, I'm going to deliver. It's very British of me to say that, wasn't it? Let's hear from Trevor Goodwin. He's our sports editor here at Live at 5 in the 805, and he's a former athlete himself as well here in Thousand Oaks. Trevor, what you got for us?
Thank you, Caroline. Yes, today I have the former athletic director of Ventura College and the head of the Ventura County Sports Hall of Fame, Mr. Brian Fitzgerald. Brian, thank you so much for joining us here today at Live at 5.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, we'll just hop straight into it, Brian. Can you share us a brief history of the Sports Hall of Fame in our county and how you got involved in its primary mission?
Sure. Well, I was the athletic director at Rio Mesa High School for 29 years, not Ventura College, but and a track coach and a Spanish teacher, and did all that good high school stuff. And I retired in 2016, and I myself had been inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2010. And I didn't know, but I guess it's standard practice that once people retire from education, they get drafted into being on the board at the Hall of Fame. So my acquaintances on the board said, "Would you be willing to help?" I said, "I guess so." And all of a sudden, it went from helping to being director, and I've been that since 2018.
Great. And I know you guys just recently had your 2024 inductee event. What's the process for selecting new members of the Hall of Fame for our county?
Well, we're always looking for qualified candidates who, would be there for us. We don't want to miss anyone. And we have 202 inductees now and 50 Olympians in the Hall of Fame, but there's still people out there that are very worthy. Go to our website, Ventura County Sports Hall of Fame.org. There'll be a link to nominate, and it's all online. So, people out there that have someone in mind, you can also see every inductee that we've ever had. People that have someone in mind that's not in the Hall of Fame that should be, we welcome those nominations every year. They're due by December 1st for the following year, and they're good for 5 years. So yeah, we'd love to hear from people.
That's awesome, Brian. And what kind of engagement does the Hall of Fame have with the community, or is that the best way for the community to engage with you guys, is personally inducting people into the Hall of Fame?
We're not like a public service organization that goes out and does things like that, but we do preserve the rich history of athletics in Ventura County. And I think it's very, very important to do that. And we do have an exhibit at Cal Lutheran University, one of your wonderful sponsors I see here tonight, on the second floor of the Gilbert Sports Center. So the public can come in and view that. We're working on trying to revamp that a little bit. We hold annually an induction ceremony where we induct 5 new Hall of Famers every year. But not only are the Hall of Famers there with their friends and family, we also have the athletes of the year from every Ventura County, male and female athletes of the year from every high school and every college in Ventura County present at that induction awards dinner. And we honor them and give them a spotlight and an award that night as well. We also award a scholarship to one male and one female there. And that's basically how we deal with the community, is at our event yearly. That's our big to-do. That's our big shindig.
That's great. That's really wonderful. Looking forward now, what are some of the biggest challenges you would say the Hall of Fame faces today, and how are you maybe looking to grow or expand it?
The biggest challenge is always, we're all volunteers. Nobody in this organization gets paid for anything. And the biggest challenge is funding. Finding corporate sponsors. And the reason that we need money is to put on the banquet, and the tickets themselves don't quite cover everything. And really, we try to keep it affordable for the parents of the high school kids that need to come, their families, their siblings, etc. So it's been a huge challenge. And when I started, we were teetering on the edge. And it's been a long clawing back to 2004. But right now we have several sponsors that help us. One is the Ventura County Community College District, who help us get through that, and we've been able to keep the prices down and affordable for most people that want to attend.
It's amazing. That's great. And Brian, as you know, as a former high school athletic director and someone that's been involved in sports, sounds like your whole life. We're previewing a little bit of discussion around name, image, and likeness in NCAA for athletes. I'm just kind of curious. It's changed so much probably from your time as an athletic director. Do you have any quick thoughts on how you feel about NIL in sports these days?
Yeah, I'm glad I'm not a high school athletic director anymore. That's my first thought. It's mostly for college, but actually NIL is finding its way into high schools, and high schools. Kids that have contracts, kids that are working on making money that way cannot be in a school uniform or, represent the school when they're doing that. I wouldn't want to stand in the way of any of our youngsters making, having businesses and doing things like that. My worry is that it takes the team aspect away from high school athletics a little bit, and it might have high school athletes shopping around for high schools where they feel they can be more visible. The school-based sports is all about learning the skills you can't learn in a classroom, and 99% of those kids never go on and play in college. So I see NIL as, maybe working a little bit at odds with that. But I think that right now, nobody really knows what's going on with it. It's going to work itself out. And I'm a simplifier. And I think, as we get down the road, the rules will become more clear to us exactly, how we work and how we integrate NIL into high school.
Yeah. Well, as a former athlete in the county myself, I very much enjoyed learning about the Hall of Fame and preserving the community and the cherished history of athletics we have. And if you, the viewer, have any more interest in learning more about this Ventura County Sports Hall of Fame, please go check out their website at Ventura County sportshalloffame.org. Brian, thanks again for your time today, and best of luck to you and the Hall of Fame in the future.
Thank you, Trevor.
Caroline, back to you.
Brian as well. Really interesting chat. Thank you so much for that. Would you believe it? Time has flown and it is a wrap, ladies and gentlemen. Do join us next month for Live at 5. Oh, we've got a quick, before we just go, from a viewer. Will there be any update at the end of the year on progress being made to fight fentanyl? You know, those numbers are something that the different agencies and law enforcement and health agencies do look at throughout the year, and that sort of frightening rise is a publicly available number. So that is something that they do monitor the entire time. It'll be really interesting to see what impact the measures that they're taking do have on fentanyl. So yes, that is something that we will keep an eye on here as well. Brady, have you got some thoughts on that question?
Just trying to get Narcan in the community as much as possible to help save lives. And I'll do my job at trying to get people into treatment, recover, and help people in this battle.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And thank you to all of you for watching. Thank you for your contributions as well. Join us next month for Live at 5. Be sure to read all about our upcoming programs as well. You can go to Live at 5 in the 805.com. Thanks for joining us.